The most dangerous African of today is an African who is colonized. I'd gone through the process of explaining the Berlin Conference and that it is a policy that was put in place in order to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. Two African-born economists working for the World Bank come to me and said, "But Ambassador, why do you keep talking about the Berlin Conference? It's a thing of the past." So these two economists working for the World Bank are the same ones now that are being used as instruments of our own self-destruction.
And I've listened to my dear sister talk about education. I've always maintained consistently the problem of Africa is squarely failure of leadership. If there's anything Nigeria needs, it's human capital. So we need to invest in education. But we're providing for tertiary institution scholarship, 5 billion in our budget. And we have 6 billion to build car park for legislators. Is that because of colonialism? So let's talk about our own destiny.
But I'll tell you, our issues as Africans today are issues of the mind. The most dangerous African of today is an African who is colonized, educated or not. Coming from Zimbabwe, I can honestly tell you that the people who are moving Zimbabwe in terms of the awakening are the villagers. They seem to have a better understanding of what is really going on and are less likely to be sold, are less likely to sell their souls. And you must look at the people around you. Some of the most difficult people, I was called by the Africa group at the World Bank one time to address them for their annual event. And I went through all the issues and the pillars of why Africa is where Africa is, and I analyzed the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization that the 14 African former French colonies were made to sign. I thought everybody understood. But at the end of it, two African-born economists working for the World Bank come to me and said, "But Ambassador, why do you keep talking about the Berlin Conference? It's a thing of the past." And to my utter shock, I'd gone through the process of explaining the Berlin Conference and that it is a policy that was put in place in order to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. And that as long as we have a country called Togo, as long as we have a country called Burkina Faso, as long as we have a country called Malawi, we are defeated. Intentionally so. So these two economists working for the World Bank are the same ones now that are being used as instruments of our own self-destruction. They're the ones that are being sent to Africa to sell policies that are detrimental to Africa's progress. So the question then becomes, what is our education doing for us?
And I've listened to my dear sister talk about education. I've always maintained consistently the problem of Africa, like Chinua Achebe said and Prof says every day, is squarely failure of leadership. It is failure of African leaders rising up to their responsibility that is keeping Africa where Africa is today, a continent of immense hope and resources. The only way to resuscitate and keep that hope is by having competent leadership, a leadership that means well. That is the only way to make a difference. As long as we continue firing wrongly, as long as we continue having incompetent people who don't have capacity, we will remain where we are. To change that hope for the youth is to know that it requires sacrifice and everything. We talked about education. Yes, I agree with my dear sister that on issue of a colonized, educated, whatever it is. But what are the leadership today doing in terms of investing in those critical areas? I was just talking to Dr. Morgan this evening, and I said to them, you don't, yes, it's good when people, and I don't argue that with you. It's good to blame others for our problem. I don't believe in blaming anybody for my problem. I deal with the problem. We are doing this evening. In my country, this year's budget is we need, if there's anything Nigeria needs, it's human capital. Because that's what will drive our HDI. We have very low human capital. In HDI, we're 158 over 180 countries measured. So we need to invest in education. But we're providing for tertiary institution scholarship, 5 billion in our budget. And we have 6 billion to build car park for legislators. Is that because of colonialism? So let's talk about our own this thing. So this is where we start. We don't have a national library. As a country, the #1 country in Africa, our national library was awarded in 1995, and it's being built to today. But our legislators are providing 3 billion to buy books for their own library. This is not issue of colonialism. It is issue, I want us to start dealing with our problem. I don't believe that at this stage, anybody is the problem of Africa except Africans themselves. And I want the youth to start dealing with the issue head on. And that's where I stand. I don't believe, I've traveled all over the world. By infinite mercies of God, I've been, with my own background as a trader, passed through certain schools where I claim not being a professor, not being a doctor, but I claim to be an alumnus of some good schools. And I said to them, I don't believe there's any white man, there's any yellow man, there's any red man who is more intelligent than I am, or any African is. We are children, we can compete. Africans can compete with anybody and do better. But we need this fair leadership to give way so that we can start facing the world on the same terms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
There you have it, guys. Our African leaders are really trying their best to manage Africa's challenges as much as they are. And when we show these speeches here on this channel, we actually encourage to share our thoughts in the comments. And so whatever it is you guys think about these speeches, please do share your thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.